Hello, Coach Scott here. Today I'm going to show you how to find your passion. That is, if you haven't found it already. Many people believe that their passion in life can only be one thing, and you just have to get lucky to find it. But that's not how it works. In fact, there is probably many things that could be potentially be your passion, and most people have more than one passion. If you look at a lot of very successful people, you will find that this is generally true. There are only two things you need in order to discover your passion. The first is that you must change where you get your dopamine from. Dopamine is a chemical released by our brain that motivates us to do things. Without it, you will literally starve to death, even if there was food right in front of you. So, the release of dopamine is also accompanied by pleasure. The problem nowadays is that dopamine is very easy to get, it's cheap and abundant everywhere. So let me just share my screen. No, that's not sharing my screen. Click the wrong button. Okay, there we go. So we're looking at where we get our dopamine from. So in the past, we had to do things in order. In the past, we had to do things in order to get that dopamine. And most of the time that meant creating something, like, for example, building a house, making a chair, putting up shelves, growing crops, and doing some kind of art. So while you were doing these tasks, you felt good and satisfied as you were being flooded with dopamine. This path would, using this kind of path, you would naturally become passionate about whatever it is that you did. But nowadays, it's a little bit different. We can now flood our brain with dopamine without having to do much at all. You can surf the internet, you can binge watch all your favorite TV shows, and you can instantly, almost instantly, order any kind of food to your house just by picking up the phone. So, what am I going to say next? Okay, so now the difference between these sources of dopamine to the ones that we're used to get it from, well, these are forms of consumption. So let's bring up my next one. So these are forms of consumption rather than, if we look on the other side, of creation. So this is a very important distinction. In order for something to be your passion, it must come from creation. If you get most of your dopamine from consumption, we call it, click onto the last slide, an addiction. Whereas if you get most of your dopamine from creation, it's called a passion. So the first thing you have to do is to reduce the amount of dopamine you get from consumption. So watch less TV, play less video games, and eat less junk food. When you cut back on receiving your dopamine from consumption, you force yourself to get it from a form of creation. This is crucial for the next step. So the second thing you need to do in order to find your passion is to simply try out different types of creative activities. So to give yourself a chance to get your dopamine from these sources instead of from consumption, there is no real easy way to do this. You just have to try things out. So just go on to Google search, search on hobbies, and make a list of ones that you would like to try. And then choose one from your list and go and do it. Pick only one at a time. You must allow yourself time to see if it can turn into a passion. Let me just unshare my screen for a moment. So, provided you carried out step 1 by reducing your dopamine from consumption, you will naturally end up finding your passion or passions. Just have to keep going through your list until you find it or them. Okay, so if you like this training, click on the link to go to my Facebook group. Bye-bye.